Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Your Next Cast. Thank you so much for checking out part 2 of how not to get skunked in 2020. So let me start by saying getting skunked means you spent all this time and energy getting out to the water, going fishing, and you caught 0 fish. And I know some people are actually cool with that because sometimes you just go out just for the enjoyment of being outside, the fresh air, putting a line in the water and just taking it easy, maybe with your family. And if that's the case, perfectly fine. Let me also say, there's nothing wrong with being skunked. It happens to everyone at some point, and it'll probably happen again, even if you follow everything that I'm about to tell you now and everything I told you in the first video. But what will happen is your next cast will be a better cast, which means the odds of you getting skunked will decrease. The odds of you landing fish will increase. And so I've already shared a few tips before of what I think are really important. And today, I'm actually going to get to what I think is probably the most important and what really changed the game for me. So a lot of the things that I'm about to say are all intertwined and connected, but you may want to write some of these things down or at least keep them in your mind because they're going to be very important. The first thing is your mindset, the way that you see fishing, because I know there's some people out there that just think, oh, it's all luck. You know, you just go out there, you throw something in the water, and maybe something will bite, maybe something won't. Like, it's not a whole lot of skill necessarily involved. That is not true, my friend. And if you think that, you're probably gonna get skunked more than the person who believes, no, there's skill involved. There's something I can do to influence the outcome. Now, don't get me wrong. For sure, you can go to Walmart, buy a Mickey Mouse rod and reel, go throw it in a lake, and pull out a 5-pound bass. I know people who have said that very thing has happened. As a matter of fact, quick story. When I was younger, we were at the river fishing once, and we had run out of live bait because that's what we fish with predominantly. And I just took a leaf, literally like a leaf off one of these trees behind me, and put that leaf on the hook, threw it in the water. Carolina rigged, right? Left it there for about 15 minutes or so. All of a sudden, see the rod tip doing this. I go reel it in, there's a catfish about this long on the end of it with a leaf. True story. So obviously you can throw anything into the water and something might get it. So I kind of get what people mean by that, but there's more to it. Because you can't do that consistently. You're not going to use a leaf or a Mickey Mouse rod consistently and land big fish or nice bass on a regular basis. And that's what we're talking about here. How do you go out and consistently maximize the time that you're on the water and catch fish? But it's not just that. Some of the things we're going to talk about here also apply to other aspects of life. And so when you believe that you can influence the outcome, it changes the way that you do 3 things. And these 3 things are important. They're the 3 P's. How you plan, how you prepare, and how you practice. So planning, a lot of that planning is research, which was what we've talked about before. It's putting yourself in the best position to catch a fish, which we've talked about before. The preparation that goes into it really stems from your planning, because when you decide when you're gonna go fish, where you're gonna go fish, what you're gonna fish for, that will determine what kind of tackle you're bringing, what kind of lures you're trying, what kind of line you're using, the rod and reel that you're using. All that goes into you preparing to go out on the water. Now, practice is also a part of that preparation. So if you look at it, you plan, that planning leads to preparation. That preparation causes you to practice. But that practice is a part of preparation. That preparation is a part of planning. So they're all intertwined, and it's happening, all 3 things simultaneously. And anything you do in life, whether making a better YouTube video, doing your next movie, doing your next song, writing your next book, making your next recipe, still involves all 3 of those things if you're going to be good at it, if you're going to be successful. Your planning involves research. You know, what is the moon telling me? What has it been doing? What is the calendar? What is the season? What is the water temperature? What is the air temperature? What type of weather systems have been involved? All of that stuff goes into your research of what's happening. What have people been catching on that body of water? What are the things that you've seen people using? All of that stuff is research. Then you want to begin to plan out your day. And if you've ever watched my videos like in detail, I usually break my day up into 4 quarters just because I'm a basketball player. I love basketball. And so that's what I'm used to. So if I'm only going out for 2 hours, which happens a lot, I break it up into 4 30-minute quarters. And before I ever get to the shore or the boat or wherever, I'm in my mind thinking how I'm going to attack each of those quarters. So just like you would in a football game or a basketball game, you have a game plan that you go in with. Now, you don't always carry that same game plan all the way till the end. You got to see what happens in the game, what happens. We got a Super Bowl coming up, so it's, who gets hurt, who's effective, who's got a mismatch, like all that good stuff. But in fishing, you're looking at, did the water clarity change? What color is being more effective than another? Do I need to move the bait fast? Do I need to move it slow? Do I need something soft? Do I need something hard? Like all of these things are adjustments you make throughout the game. And so my first quarter, I'm probably going to use something to search for fish, like a chatterbait. I love the chatterbait, just to see what'll bite. Nothing on the chatterbait. I usually will go to a soft plastic to see if that works. But I already have a plan. I'm not going to go through the whole gamut of what I do, but there's a plan. And so what happens is that first quarter, hopefully I get a hint. That second quarter, hopefully I get more hints and build on it. But let's say that doesn't happen. Then what I do at halftime, if you will, after that second quarter, I look at what has worked, what has not worked. What do I need to change and adjust? And like you say, if you get to the fourth quarter and you're still skunked, you don't have any, you got zero, it's like you're in a Super Bowl, it's the fourth quarter and you got 0 points and you're down by a touchdown. You just got to start slinging all kinds of stuff. And sometimes, that's the recipe for success. But it's not random. And a lot of people think it's random or it's luck. It's not. You've prepared, you've planned, you've researched. So you have a litany of things that you want to do, that you want to practice, that you want to throw throughout the day, throughout each quarter. And you're essentially doing two things. You're eliminating lures and you're eliminating water until you get right down specifically to where you need to be and what you need to be throwing. And this is true whether you're fishing from the bank or from a boat. And so just real quick, one of my techniques is if I'm fishing from the bank, like I'm on land right now, I know the area that I can fish. And let's say it's 100-yard area, right? I start breaking it up into maybe 10-yard sections and fishing it to see, am I going to come into some fish that are biting what I'm throwing or reacting to what I'm actually throwing? And if not, I need to change up. And you should already have in your mind what you're going to change up to. So all that goes into your plan and your preparation. Now, what allows me to be able to do all that is very key. That's confidence. Confidence, confidence, confidence. There is no substitute for confidence. And one of the things you heard me mention last video was you got to get time on the water. You got to practice. Just like shooting a basketball, throwing a football, kicking a soccer ball, you're not going to get good at it by doing it every now and again. You've got to dedicate time to practice that thing. So if you're in your yard, a lot of people will get a bucket and fill it with water, and you got to practice casting into it. Because if you can make a soft, accurate presentation, you're going to have more confidence on where the fish actually are. And so one of the things that helped me in 2019 was I had become really good with my spinning rod and my bait casting rod, and I could make accurate, precise casts probably up to 10 yards away. And I just did that through practice. I would actually go to the lake. So if you have a body of water near you, you can do it. But again, if you don't, take a bucket, fill it with water, go outside, use your swimming pool, whatever you have, and just cast. Make soft, accurate cast over and over and over again. Just like shooting a 3-point shot over and over and over again. Somebody might go out and make a 3-point shot. And you could say, well, that's luck. But for them to consistently make 3-pointers, you got to practice that. It's not going to happen by accident. So you've got to put the time in, even if you're not fishing. Like this happens for me many times. Like this time of year, all my stuff is broken down. I'm not out fishing. I'm not doing any of that. I'm doing a lot of other things that I need to do throughout the year so I can prepare to do all the fishing that I want to do in the spring and in summer and going into fall. And so when I break all that stuff back out, like toward the end of February, probably, I'll begin to break all that stuff out, clean it up, put new line on, all that good stuff. I will literally take my rod and reel, go out to the lake and just practice with it. So I can get back into the rhythm and the back of the way and get back into the way that it feels to cast, and make that side cast, that long cast, that small pitch. Like, I do all of that to prepare so when I get in the boat and I'm at that dock and I think there's a fish there, I can make the exact right cast. And then what happens is, because of my confidence that I made the perfect cast, if no fish bites, I'll probably do that 2 more times. If no fish bites, in my mind, I say, I made a good cast. Either there's no fish there, or the fish that are there don't want what I'm throwing. And so I will move on if my strategy is find fish that want whatever I'm throwing, or if I'm limited to an area, like my boat can only go so far because I'm on a trolling motor, or I'm fishing from the bank, then I'll say, all right, I need to switch up. Maybe it's a different color, maybe it's a different size, maybe it's a different shape, and I go through all that good stuff. So all of that's gonna come in your research, planning, and preparation. But if you've done the practice, you will now have the real key to not getting skunked, and that's being confident. Confident that you can cover more water than other people can because you're making accurate casts multiple times. Now, maybe you're sitting there and you're thinking, Titus, that makes no sense. I've tried what you're saying and that doesn't work. I'm gonna give you 2 quick stories that changed my entire perspective, and it's gonna lead to 2 other points that are really important. So remember that confidence is paramount. If you've watched my earlier videos, there's a good friend of mine, Rob, which Rob, if you're watching, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. He and I went fishing. He took me out on his boat. He gave me his rod, his reel, his line, his lure. We're using the exact same thing. And he's putting me in the best position to catch fish. You know what happens? I watch Rob outfish me 10-1 easily. And that's probably being generous. Like, it was probably worse than that. But he was pulling in fish and I'm getting one here, I'm getting one there. So what's the deal? We're in the same area, using the same lure, the same rod and reel, right? If it's luck, if it's random, we both should be getting hit relatively, the same. Doesn't happen that way. That was my first clue of, okay, there's something else to this fishing thing. It's not just go out and chuck it and throw it and hope that something good happens. Second instance, I mean, this happened multiple times, but the second person this happened with is a good friend of mine named Joe, which, Joe, if you're watching, I appreciate you as well. But you've seen him on this channel. He and I had fished at Hunting Run Reservoir together. The very first time I ever went there, Joe said, don't worry about it. I got everything. We went out on his boat. I have his rod. I have his reel. We have the same line. We have the same lure. We're both fishing the same area. Again, and most of you who fish know this. If you're fishing, if you've invited somebody to go fishing with you, you want them to catch fish. So you tend to put them in the best position to be able to do it. Joe did the same thing. Gave me his stuff, put me in the best position. He still outfished me 5 or 6-1. Or more. Again, either way, clearly lopsided. And he did this multiple times. And what that taught me was there is something I can do to influence the outcome. It isn't just rod, reel, line, lures, although they do matter. It's not all that. Largely, it's confidence. It's having done your research, the planning, the preparing, the practicing, the time on the water, and then having a strategy for how you're going to approach the day. And so that leads me to these 2 points that changed me, at least. I don't know if this will change you, but it changed me. In your mind, you have to believe that fish are there. Now, I don't know about you, but there's times where I've gotten skunked and I went home saying, there were no fish there. This person brought me out to this body of water, to this lake, to this river, to this pond, wherever. There's no fish in it. None. There's no fish anywhere at all. Right? And sometimes we're joking when we say that, but I believe that sometimes, like, there's just no fish there. Like, I threw everything at them. There's no fish. Not true. I had to change my mind and say, there are always fish there. Always. You just have to learn how to get them to strike. And I know misery loves company, right? How many of you have had this experience? You're coming back into the dock and guys are like, hey, how'd you do? You get any? It was tough for us, out there, yada, 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 right? It makes you feel better if other people say it was tough and it was hard and you had a hard day. But can I tell you, since I've adopted this mentality, I've had way more times, and you can look at the videos at people who are watching this who have been to Hunting Run or in Lake of the Woods. Some of you know that this has happened. You've come in, you've seen me, and you've said, man, it was a tough day. We only got 1 or 2 bites. They were out there 5 or 6 hours. I was out there 2 or 3 hours, caught 6 or 7 fish, right? Decent fish. So what's the difference? And if you don't believe that, just look at tournaments. You have 100 boats leave a tournament at 6:30 in the morning. 20 of them come back with no fish at all. You got another 40 boats, all of them got a 5 bass limit. How's that possible? If it's luck, if it's random, if there's no unique skill that's involved in altering the outcome. Now, don't get me wrong. There are times where it's harder to catch fish than others. Like right now in the dead of winter, much harder to catch fish than if you were in early spring or summer or going into fall. Much, much harder. And it's colder, so that adds an element to it. But anyway, I hope you get my point that it takes more than just, I want to go catch fish. I hope I go catch fish. Hope is not a strategy. You've got to believe that there's fish there. I just got to learn how to catch them. And the difference is that puts the onus on you, the angler, the fisherman. You have to go out and say, I got to make this happen somehow. Now, the second part of that is a lot of times, you're thinking the fish are not there. So maybe you've now bought into that. You believe. You also have to believe your next cast is going to be the one. That's actually one of the reasons that this channel is also called Your Next Cast. You have to believe that you can cast 998 times with no bite, but that 999th time, giant on it. You have to have that type of confidence and that type of belief every single time that you put your lure in the water. So you're casting with confidence, you're making a soft and accurate cast, and you're covering water because you have a plan or a strategy of how you're approaching your day. And this happens whether you're on land, in a John boat, or in a bass cat boat. No matter what you're in, it's the same exact process. And if you do this, I believe your skunk days will go down, down, down. And your days of catching fish will go up, up, up. And I am living proof. Before 2019, plenty of trips that I got skunked. But at the beginning of 2019, I said, I'm going to start practicing more and more. And it was easy for me because I live near a body of water. But beyond that, I just don't always have a lot of time to go out and actually fish. So it's easier for me to just go to the lake and just practice. If I get a new lure, if I get a new chatterbait that's a different weight, maybe I'm going up to a half ounce instead of a 3/8 ounce or something like that, I will actually go out and cast with that lure 100 times to get used to what it feels like. That makes me a better angler. It's going to make you a better angler. Now, maybe you don't care about this. And if you're that way, you're probably not watching this far into the video anyway. But maybe you're saying, well, I don't care. I just want to go out and we'll see what happens. That's fine. That's cool. You don't have to do any of these tips. But if you got a son, a grandson, a granddaughter, a daughter maybe that you want to see catch some fish and you want them to be better, maybe they take an interest in angling and you're trying to figure out how do they get better. All these things are what they need. And I dare you to find a pro that's going to say anything different. I can honestly tell you, as a person who did not fish with artificial lures at all in my life, only in the last 5 years, I have seen an exponential growth in my ability to catch fish. Now, I'm the person who's on the boat with other people and I'm out catching them 6-1, 7-1. And I know within myself, it's not random at all. You've got to believe that there's fish. And actually, shout out to Adam, my good friend. I say good friend. I've only known him for about 6 months now. But Adam at Full Armor Bassin, if you all are acquainted with him, he always says, you got to believe, brother. You got to believe. And it's so true. You have to believe that my next cast is going to be my best cast. A fish is going to be there. So I hope that these lessons are helpful to you. I hope there's something that's been said that's going to propel you in 2020 to get better. If you're not practicing and you want to get good, you got to go out and practice. There's no substitute. Soccer, golf, badminton, racquetball, basketball, football, you've got to get out and put the work in. It's not going to happen by accident. You got to believe. You got to have faith in yourself and in what you do. Notice that not one thing I've said has been about your rod, your reel, your line, your lure, anything. Most of it is right here, and that's life in general. What you need to do and focus on is right here first, because the other tools don't necessarily matter if you don't have it here. So I want to encourage you, whether you're writing a book or a song or a movie script, you got to get it right here first. After you do that, you get that confidence, you've planned, you've prepared, you've practiced, you're now ready to execute in real time. And you have my word, you have my guarantee. If you do all of those things, you will find yourself getting skunked less and less and less until, like me, in 2019, every single trip, I caught a fish. And even in the short amount of time where I only went out for 30 minutes or 45 minutes or 50 minutes, still caught fish, because you're always prepared once that happens. Now, as I'm saying that, I hope that holds up here in 2020. But we will see what happens. And again, it's not to say you won't ever be skunked again, because again, it can happen. But you have greatly increased your odds of that not happening. I hope you have a good day, and I hope you have a good night. We will see you next time right here on your next cast.